Did Puffy see her about to drink out that bottle, yo? He wasn't trying to stop her. He was gonna let her drink out that bottle like that.
Yeah, no, I ain't stopping.
That's out of pocket, man. So he was really about to let her drink out that bottle and drink his urine.
Now, for Diddy to feud with Tupac when he was still alive is one thing. But why did he allow Kidada Jones, Tupac's then-fiancée, to consume his urine? Man, that's really bad. Honestly, it seems like I've learned something new about Diddy every day. However, how did Diddy come to the decision to allow Kidada to consume his urine? And why, when Tupac could not even stand the sight of Diddy? Was Kidada even hanging out with Diddy in the first place? Okay, as many of us may remember, Tupac's engagement to Kidada kept her close to him during his final months. In her father Quincy Jones' autobiography, Kidada even wrote about Tupac's final moments, claiming that he was the love of her life and that they had lived together for 4 months before he passed away in Las Vegas in 1996. The night of Tupac's passing, Kidada was in a hotel room they had reserved together when she got the call, and she claimed that the experience was the worst thing that had ever happened to her. Kidada was then informed that her boyfriend had dropped blood pressure upon arrival at the hospital and given Pac's blood-stained garments. "Do you know I love you?" Kidada allegedly murmured to Pac as he lay on the hospital bed, according to what she recounted in the memoir. "Are you aware of our love for you?" Tupac then nodded, started to shake, and eventually went into a coma. In her father's memoirs, Kidada also stated, "I knew we shouldn't have gone to Vegas that night. I was horrified by the situation. I've mentally reviewed it a gazillion times. It wasn't planned to occur. We had no business being there. The worst thing that might have happened actually did occur. I still have no idea who killed him." In any case, the relationship with Tupac had also begun in an odd way when Tupac had criticized Quincy Jones in an interview in which he discussed Quincy's interracial relationships and his raising of mixed-race children. Rashida Jones, Kidada Jones' sister, attacked Tupac at the time in an article, questioning his morality and called him out for disrespecting her father. When Pac contacted Kidada Jones at a nightclub months later, thinking she was Rashida Jones, to apologize for his earlier remarks about their father, they kind of hit it off. As you are already aware, Diddy disliked Tupac because of the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. Since Kiffy D has been talking so much about how Diddy was also engaged with Pac's case, there are even claims that Diddy is afraid following Kiffy D's arrest. Anyway, given Diddy's disdain for Tupac, it should come as no surprise that he didn't care much for Kidada, who was supposedly seeing Kidada literally drink his urine in the months before Tupac's murder. Kidada was engaged to Tupac at the time of his death. Anyway, Gene Deal spilled that tea when he described the incident between Diddy and Kidada Jones, and described the events he saw during the East Coast versus West Coast wars in the late 1990s. First, he described how he and Diddy once ran across Tupac and Suge while driving during a period when the feud between Tupac and Biggie was raging and fierce. And I'm not sure why Pac wanted to turn in this direction. It was quite humorous, like he foresaw that they would return or something. I found it strange. Gene claims that when they arrived at the location where Pac and Suge were, Diddy attempted to strike up a conversation with Pac. Tupac chose to ignore him. However, it was obvious that there was a great deal of tension between them. Gene also mentioned that Diddy had the chance to end the feud between Biggie and Tupac, but turned it down. They asked Puff for a representative when they had that meeting, saying things like, "Hey, you want someone to represent you because we're going to try and squash this shit and get this shit, just about making money or something similar," but Puff wouldn't agree. He wouldn't allow Zip, Chaz, or anybody else to speak on his behalf at one of those meetings. He would not be involved in any way. You know what else Gene was glad to divulge? That Puff didn't just have it in for Tupac. Additionally, he had issues with Pac's fiancée, Kidada Jones. Gene continued by telling the story of a time when Diddy refused to leave an awards ceremony because he believed he would win Producer of the Year, but another person was named Producer of the Year. You won't believe what Diddy did to vent his rage, my friends. After we had a drink, he took one of the pictures. I believe it was the one of the ginger ale or something similar. He then added water from the pitcher or something similar. After that, he peed in the pitcher by climbing up under the table. Am I correct? With the ice and other things still inside. In the pitcher, he defecated. That wasn't even the worst part, by the way, because apparently Kidada Jones went to the table where they were seated, and she took the picture that Diddy had urinated in to pour herself a drink, and Diddy did not stop her at all. Nobody mentioned it, but he had peed in the same bottle of ginger ale or something like. She was prepared to consume it. Obviously, that's absolutely vile, and to a lot of people, that just proved that Diddy is just pure evil. But in that situation, some people also said that Kidada Jones should have never put herself in that position because she just showed how much of a groupie she was. She knew very well about that beef between Tupac and Diddy. So why would she even be around Puffy and talking to him knowing how Tupac felt about him? Unless, of course, just like people speculated back in the day, the relationship between Kidada and Tupac was just a sham. I mean, there have been several allegations that the relationship between Tupac and Kidada was not as tight as she made it look. And one of the questionable incidents was the night Tupac passed away. There have actually been 2 reports about where Kidada was that night. One is that Tupac told Kidada to stay back at the hotel because he was trying to keep her out of harm's way, thinking something would go down that night. But it's also been said that Tupac didn't want Kidada around him that day because she was not that important. In fact, it has also been said that Kidada and Tupac were engaged, but after his death, his friends hinted that their relationship was nowhere close to them being engaged. And let's not forget that allegedly Kidada's father, Quincy Jones, allegedly wanted to hook up with Tupac. And for a long time, people have argued that if Pac and Kidada were solid, Quincy would not have degraded their relationship or his daughter like that. There's even an interview that made rounds back in the day where Tupac is talking about how Quincy Jones wanted to hook up with him. And this was during the time when he was dating Kidada, something that multiple people have talked about, including Professor Griff. When Tupac said no, that's when Tupac was marked for death. Why? Because Tupac was engaged to Quincy Jones's daughter. Quincy Jones's daughter was best pals with Aaliyah. By the way, something interesting that Professor Griff also revealed was that Quincy was responsible for many of the horrible things that took place in Hollywood. And the person who orchestrated a lot of those things on his behalf was Diddy, his soon-to-be son-in-law's enemy. This homo dude, what's his name? Puffy P. Diddy was his self-described moniker this week. He was one of those responsible for planning some of these events. Therefore, whether or not that family truly had Tupac's best interests in mind has always been a subject of discussion. And after hearing that, many people claimed they were not shocked to learn that Kidada was friends with Diddy. Additionally, there is a video of Kidada Jones having a good time with Biggie Smalls and Puff just 6 months after Tupac passed away. Guys, don't you think it was a little early for her to be hanging out with Tupac's foes considering that she claimed to have been on her back for months? Well, Kidada was also being used because Diddy had no problem with her consuming his, I won't even use the word again, drink. But here's the thing. According to Gene Deal, Diddy might have been more than willing to do it for another reason. He continued by outlining the closeness of the industry and how rappers frequently perform the same females, suggesting that Diddy and Kidada may have once been tight, and that it's possible Puff was envious once Kidada started dating Tupac. Could that possibly be the cause? Is it just that he's evil? Or was there a connection to the conflict between the East and West Coasts? Please let me know if there was any connection to the East Coast, West Coast
More shocking
feud.
things about
Please
Diddy.
share
But
your
how did
thoughts
Diddy
in
get to the
section
point
below.
where he was